Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Geek and Dorks Reviews. I bumped into a movie that I think is pretty important and I really believe a lot of you brain scratchers out there are going to appreciate. It is called Peace Officer, and what's really cool about it is it actually got featured on the front page of Hulu, at least for one day. It was kind of weird. I went back to watch it the next day and it wasn't there, but I was able to search on it and find it. It is a movie from 2015. Apparently it was released in Canada in April of 2015, directed by Brad Barber and Scott Christopherson. Say that 3 times fast. And here is the plot summary from IMDB.com. As usual, I'll have a link to the IMDB page for it down in the description box. Peace Officer is a documentary about the increasingly militarized state of American police as told through the story of Dub Lawrence, a former sheriff who established and trained his rural state's first SWAT team only to see that same unit kill his son-in-law in a controversial standoff 30 years later. Driven by an obsessed sense of mission, Dub uses his own investigation skills to uncover the truth in this and other recent officer-involved shootings in his community while tackling larger questions about the changing face of peace officers nationwide. And I have to say, this is a movie that will likely rattle you a bit in some way. I found myself shaking my head at the screen, rolling my eyes, not at the film in any way, just at the information it was presenting. And I have to say, it does a very good job of presenting both sides of the story. You will see Dub, you will see citizens talking about kind of how intimidating and scary this militarization of our police forces is. Speaking of which, I've been talking about that on YouTube for literally years now. I personally started recognizing it a few years ago when the police officers' uniforms started changing and their motorcycles started changing and they started looking like RoboCop, like literally these black armored things that are sitting on top of these new supercycles. But this documentary will share some information with you, stuff that I didn't know. I had heard that the military is actually handing off surplus and older equipment to the police departments, but did you know that they have to use it within 1 year to basically justify them taking that acquisition? Which kind of, in my mind, is a strange thing because you're really promoting the use of that item, whether it might be needed or not, which might be a bit of a question for some people. This movie also goes into other cases, and it's heartbreaking, it's enraging, but around it you have this central character, Dub Lawrence, who is a very good voice to be speaking up on this because he has firsthand experience on literally both sides of this argument. And that's what's great about this documentary. You really, truly feel like you are getting both sides of the argument. They interview a ton of law enforcement officials. Sometimes they don't sound like they're having the most intelligent approach to some of us. However, their side is clearly represented in this. It was a really good documentary, but it's a bit tough to watch. So if you're sensitive, if you're eager, or if you're one of those people that really gets angsty when you're watching something, for example, if you watched Making a Murderer and it upsets you and riled you up a little bit, I'm pretty sure Peace Officer is going to do the same. However, there's a lot to really take in, and there's just something about that character, about Dub. You see this man that has no reason to be smiling anymore. I mean, he really, for what he's gone through, he should be just PO'd all the time. And you see him with this big giant smile on his face, living day after day, still working to investigate cases, and doing some amazing things like finding tons of evidence that the police look over, coming to conclusions that might be a bit controversial and definitely don't line up with the conclusions that the other police officers are coming to. It's got this aspect of being like a mystery baked into it because you want to know what the backstory is about what happens to his son-in-law, but it also goes over several other cases and tells this overarching narrative about how we have lost a bit of the sense of what a peace officer truly is, and now we have people that are more prone to glorified violence and using extremely stiff, strong-armed tactics just to do simple things like execute search warrants. So for many of you out there, I'm pretty sure that you're going to learn something in it one way or another. And if anything, it is just an extremely well done documentary, well shot, well edited, plenty of access to the right people, plenty of fair time spread between both sides of the argument. And it raises some very important questions that I think we all need to think about. My brain is still going back to it, just pulling question after question out. And there's some way we can change course here and make things a bit better so that our kids can live in a place that feels a bit safer rather than being afraid of the people that are supposed to be protecting us. Because I can tell you, especially over the past few years, the needle has certainly been sliding over to that. And you know, I'm all about safety for officers, but there has to be something said about escalation patterns, and that point is being completely missed. You know, there was a great scene in, I think it was in The Dark Knight Rises, when, or at the end of Batman Begins even, where they talk about how, you know, now he's dressed up and he's given it to the criminals. What's that going to do to the criminal element? Now we have a guy who's wearing makeup on his face and leaving his calling cards of a Joker on his crime scenes. And if you have police starting that escalation, where do the criminals look? Where are they going to take it to? If you know that it's likely that you're a drug dealer and your house is going to get kicked in by a SWAT team of 6 to 8 individuals that are highly trained and armed to the teeth, is that going to make you think about arming yourself even harder, about having more guards in your house, more safety measures, possibly different types of devices to harm those guys if they're trying to come in through an entryway that is not not your front door? It's really just a heartbreaking thing all around, and I do hope that our country gets a bit of a sense of duty in terms of straightening that arrow, because it just feels like it's flying way off the bullseye for a few years now, especially if you watch the news at all. So that's it. Please check out Peace Officer. Like I said, it's available on Hulu. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix, and I think it's weird to say, I don't think you'll enjoy it. I think you will appreciate the experience of watching it and contemplating the questions that it leaves you with. Thank you so much for joining me on this Geek and Dorks review. I will catch you on the next show on the Geek and Dorks channel. Take care.